So our next speaker today now is Rachel Farrell, and Rachel is the director of the PME program in UCD. PMEs are the teachers who are trained to be teachers. And Rachel used to work in the PDSD and then moved to UCD a couple of years ago. And her research is underpinned by practical experience gained over 23 years in teaching and professional development. Rachel's always been a huge supporter of the Leaving Cert Applied program, which is fantastic. And we welcome her here to talk to us today.
Sandra, and thanks to the panel for the invite here today, and I'm delighted to be sharing the stage with Rory. My sister's a big fan, so I'll have to get a picture with you afterwards. So the title of the presentation today, I want you just tell me, is it 15 minutes I have?
But just over 10. Yeah.
That's fine. We'll just, because any videos or anything I have, I'll just let you watch them yourselves. I just signpost them. Sorry, yeah. But the name of the presentation today is the UCD School of Education Outreach with LCA. It's been pointed out to me that we talk a lot about how we support people, but actually by working with teachers like yourselves, you actually support us as well. So it's a mutual endeavour. So I suppose I'm just really going to give you a whistle-stop tour through some of the projects that we have going on in the School of Education in UCD that are funded by various bodies. For example, the PDST Technology Education, we have Science Foundation Ireland funding. So we're going to try and get funding from a lot of different sources so that we can reinvest that with teachers like yourselves so that you can have nice projects going on in your school, and then you can come back and tell us how things are going, and then we have a mutual learning from that. So that's really what I'm going to talk about today. So because I'm under pressure for time, I won't be going through this the way that I would have intended, but I just came across this on Twitter. Many people are a fan of Twitter. Okay, a lot of people are like, well, I like Twitter, and I learn an awful lot from seeing what teachers are doing on Twitter. That's a major source of actually where I get ideas and inspiration, because I teach with student teachers. So I'm exactly the same as you, trying to look for ideas to get a class, to stimulate thinking in a class. So this is something I came across on Twitter, and this guy is called Michael Rosen. So he's a poet, and he wrote this lovely poem called Catch Up. And yesterday, as it happens, by coincidence, I was giving a lecture on post-primary subjects and programs. So the focus was on looking at what do we need to be thinking about and what sort of values as teachers when we're looking at different types of approaches, when we're teaching different types of programs. So I was leading into looking at the Leaving Cert Applied as a program. So I just put this up as a stimulus in the class first, and I asked the students to think about, rather than me going in talking about all the different philosophers and theories of education, I said, look, here's a nice poem. What's that speaking to you? And what have you learned in the program, or what have you learned in life experience that's speaking to you in that poem? So I came back, and I know you won't be able to read it there, but in your own time, it's well worth looking at that poem and maybe reading that poem with your students. But what came back from my students is they were able to pinpoint Paulo Freire, because he talked about the banking model of education, where the teachers were seen as the fountains of all knowledge, giving the students all the information. And here in a pandemic situation, the poor students here, and they're going along spilling the jugs, they're just not able for it. So I took a step back from what I was doing with my students, and I said, what's it all about? And what's education all about? And we got to think about, what's your philosophy of education? Why are you teachers? And one of the most beneficial parts of my teaching when I was teaching was making breakthroughs with my Leaving Cert Applied students. Because if you can crack that nut in teaching, you really have mastered teaching. Because as we all know, there's working in with students of different interests and different things going on in their lives, it's really, really important that as a teacher that you can make such an impact on someone's life. And then when you see what they go on to do in their lives and they can come back, it's just a very rewarding experience. So that's how I spoke with my student teachers about leading into the whole LCA yesterday. And they came back with brilliant things around that. My own research, as Sandra pointed out, I just finished my PhD, my pandemic PhD. And my area of work, and without getting into too much of the theory, but I just want to explain to you where I'm coming from on this, that my work is all around what I coined the phrase democratic pedagogical partnerships, because my research is talking about how can I work with students, teachers, industry, to help each other out so that we can actually learn from each other to make the teaching and learning in our classrooms enriching for both the students and the teachers. Industry partners are very keen to get involved in education. I mean, they have an end goal. They have a certain end goal. But if we can get things from industry to help us, well, then why not let's all work together to get that once we know what our goal is as well. And once whatever we're doing with industry services the needs of our students. So that's kind of, so I'm working a lot now that the PhD is out of the way. My main focus is to go after funding so I can actually do research projects with teachers like yourselves. So some of those, and just not dwelling on this, this is another thing that came from my research, and I want to make my research real. So when I'm talking about partnerships in teacher education, this wheel here is talking about partnerships in other faculties in the university, teachers, students, working with PDST, support services. And around here in this presentation, you have it for your perusal, all around the outside that's color coordinated are the real physical, tangible projects I have going on with teachers like yourselves. That is the embodiment of the research that I've done. So I'm going to move on to some of them here. So one is the most exciting one I've done recently, which is the Digi-Stories project with the Professional Development Service for Teachers, Technology and Education. Has anyone actually seen this ceremony? Have you seen this? Anybody? Okay, so it's well worth, if anybody is interested in doing a nice project with your students after Christmas. Anthony Kilcoyne is a colleague of mine. Both of us are massively committed to Leaving Cert Applied, and both of us taught Leaving Cert Applied for years. And so Anthony is working with me that we had a pilot project last year where we recruited 10 schools where there was a student teacher learning how to do digital stories. They went back to their placement schools, worked with an LCA teacher, and then they recruited a few students where they did a digital story on their personal reflection task. So we chose 3 students. So we had a first prize, a second prize, and runners up. And we did a little online award ceremony. And it's not very long, but in that you'll see the 3 winning videos. And I won't have time to show that video today, but it's well worth. So in that, I just highlighted that the winner was Rachel Lawless. And so I had a student teacher who did a gorgeous, really gorgeous video. And it's well worth looking at this. And we have, if you're interested, see the link there? That's just a Google site we set up. It's rough and ready for the moment, but in there is an online, I suppose, asynchronous course on how to do digital storytelling. Now, you could give that link to your students and let them figure it out themselves, because the way that we're doing the digital stories is using free online tools like Adobe Spark. It's a matter of taking a few pictures, having a little bit of voiceover, and they're recounting their experience in their personal reflection task and putting a little bit of music to it. So it's very simple, but it's very effective. So we're going to be looking to recruit some schools to do that. That's Shona. You all know Shona. Shona couldn't be here today. So Shona's student was runner-up last year. So he got his hoodie, he got little tops made for the occasion. He got his cert. And Shona now is working with me in UCD, doing a lot around LCA. So we want to recruit more teachers. So what we're doing is, at the moment, we're doing a kind of whistle-stop tour through LCA with our students. But what we do then is, like in adult learning, if you don't need something at the time, you won't really take it in. You need to learn it when you actually need it. So what we do is with student teachers is we give you an overview of all the programs. But if you're teaching a program, or if next year you're teaching a program, we had Shona in, and she did 4 sessions. And she had students who were interested or who were working with LCA come online, and she taught them through as a practicing teacher. But we need teachers of all the different subject areas in Leaving Cert Applied. And then we'll recruit you, you'll be registered with us, and then we'll get you to do subject specific areas for LCA online with students, so that we're not curtailed now by having people to come up to UCD. We can actually do it online. So I have asked Shona's permission. That's her UCD email. So Shona is a go-to person. If anybody's interested in getting involved in that way, email Shona. If anybody is interested in the digital storytelling project, email Fran. Fran was here a few years ago. when she gave a short presentation. You tell me when to stop now. I am also, I'll just keep talking until I'm told to stop. I'm the same at home, but they'll always tell me to stop quicker at home than here. Anyway, this, as you all know, the Teaching Council, you know, the Farrell. So we do a lot of work every year that we would like, if we're working with schools and teachers, that we work with you then to showcase the projects. So again, if anybody has any ideas you think would be good, feel free to get in touch. My email is at the front slide. You'll have the presentation. I'd love to work with you, and we showcase some of our projects at Farrell. The Teaching Council also has research bursaries. It's the closing date has expired now, but Shona and Fran have put in for a bursary around working with LCA and TY students around Lego, and that's tied in with developing computational thinking. So we're developing skills towards STEM subjects. So I want you as LCA, I challenge you as LCA teachers to think about how can you cultivate STEM and even with specifically your female students, because there is a big push to get more females into STEM, and we'd love to work with you on that. Here's an example. So I'm doing a lot of work now on developing with colleagues of mine. I'm doing very little really. I just bring the resources together, they do all the work. We're working with the Department of the Environment on the cybersecurity short course. But you know the new specification now for IT with LCA, I think there's scope to look at how we can blend in things there. If you want your students to do career investigations or a personal reflection task, there's examples of where women fit women in STEM and apprenticeships in cybersecurity. They're things. So just giving you 30 seconds then. This is my last few. We're involved in a project called Power to Progress. We have that's going on with virtual reality. We have virtual reality for Irish and Leaving Cert Applied, a free resource. You'll find that stuff in that link. Free online course for virtual reality. If you want to go down that way, the link is there. And my fourth baby, young economist, I'm pointing out some resources that might be useful if you're teaching communications, that you mightn't think to go to this site, but this is bringing up topical issues and gorgeous resources around guiding students towards investigating topical issues. And I'll finish up by saying that anywhere you can bring in the Sustainable Development Goals, and even if you want to bring that into the digital stories, that gets extra brownie points. There's a great website about to get ideas there for that. And why not get your LCA students to make a contribution to changing our future? It's a government initiative where everybody in the country is invited to put in ideas about where they see the world, how they see them making a contribution to the world. So why not let your LCA students contribute to that?